I just don't think I ever knew what to do with my hand.
Welcome to Bookworms. This is a bonus Bookworms episode with our favorite guest of all time. Haley is back for another round. Haley, say hi.
Hello? Waving. They can't see me. You need a camera for the YouTube
Yeah,
videos.
well, that'll be
That's next.
that'll be like season 5 maybe when
Okay.
Alex starts making money off his book sales.
Okay.
So yes, we have a bonus episode today that is very special to Haley. She has been requesting this for months and then ditching us. So
Yeah, that's on me. It is my favorite book of all time. It's quite literally life-changing, but I have failed like probably 5 or 6 times now.
yeah, so my memory's a little hazy of it. Her memory's hazy
Hazier.
of it. But I think we got this. Haley, what book did you want me to read?
Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer.
And why did you want me to read this book?
It quite literally changed my entire outlook on the way that the world operates, especially in the US. It's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So change it how? For the better or for the worse?
I think a lot of the ways that she talks about living life and living in community is something that we could all learn from right now. So,
Yeah.
cry.
So what's her background?
She's a botanist and also an indigenous person, and her outlook, she combines both of those things beautifully in this book. It's
As a great storyteller always does, and a lot of the Native Americans are quite great storytellers. It's
that's how
part of
they
their
keep it pure.
tradition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she weaves science and natural history and tradition together beautifully.
It's really impressive how she's able to prove people wrong about the indigenous ways of doing things when people are like, oh, that's not going to work. And she's like, well, not only do the indigenous people say it, science also says it. So I love it.
So yeah, what made you read this book? Because you're not a huge book reader.
Well, I listened. I
You
cheated.
listened.
Yeah.
Well, what brought it on?
I
Let me interrupt, for those people that argue this, audiobooks is reading apparently, even if I disagree at times. Oh no, people will fight this tooth and nail. They will say so. So we're gonna give you credit for this for reading, okay?
okay, okay.
You read with your ears.
Yes, my ears read the book. Some actually, Robin Wall Kimmerer read it to me. She is the narrator for this
Well,
book.
even better, yeah.
I think it actually, even if you've read it yourself, like actually looked at the words and read it, listening to parts of it with her reading it completely changes it because she puts her emotion into it and the pronunciation of some of the words in her native language. I just feel like it totally changes. At least I didn't read it, so I don't know. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, it makes so much more sense now because she knows what she's talking about. She knows how to pronounce these words. The real emotion behind it, it's exceptional. And her voice is just so sweet. She's like everyone's grandma, I think.
So yeah, and what is this book kind of about? Because it's a lot of basically almost
It's like essays.
essays, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's kind of sort of memoir, sort of sciency, and opinions and what have you. So it touches on a little bit of everything. So
Yeah.
it's not just a straight narrative, though there is a narrative thread that does weave through the whole thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't go in chronological order either. So you can listen to each or read each of the essays independently, which I think is kind of nice. And some are longer, some are shorter. It's a pretty good collection of just her journey from for getting her degree in botany, which wasn't an easy journey. She actually, I think, has her PhD.
Yeah, she is a doctor.
Yeah, right? I like
She's a
she's a
professor.
bad bitch. Yeah.
She's a professor.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's a
So
bad bitch.
bad bitch.
So you want to read us the back there, Haley?
Well, yeah. I don't know how to read. That's why I listen to books. So I'm just kidding. As a botanist, Robin Wall Kimmerer has been trained to ask questions of nature with the tools of science. As a member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation, she embraces the notion that plants and animals are our oldest teachers. In Braiding Sweetgrass, Kimmerer brings these lenses of knowledge together to show that the awakening of a wider ecological consciousness requires the acknowledgement and celebration of our reciprocal relationships with the rest of the living world. For only when we can hear the languages of other beings are we capable of understanding the generosity of the earth and learning to give our own gifts in return.
It's excellent. Good job, Haley. Throwing that on you.
Like I don't think I can do this. Oh my god. That's well said though, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, it says she's just the whole way through. She's very articulate, very good.
Yeah.
So it's as you'll see, we're both going to gush over the book. This isn't something that I would normally read, but Haley said check it out, and Well, I read it probably adjacent to this for pop sciencey earth science stuff, just to kind of see, because my major in college was natural resources management, so
Right.
I have a good background in this, and so I enjoy when people put out their opinions for how to best manage nature and kind of chuckle at the where they get it right or wrong,
True, true.
and and love reading the comments where other people who don't have that background will say this is impossible or this is a terrible thing, and
Right.
it's like
Yeah, everybody has their opinion, that's for sure. I feel like it's not, I don't even like nonfiction books, I guess is like the right word. I'm not a big fan of like sciencey books, but she does such a good job of telling it like it's a story and making it into a very interesting, engaging story that it doesn't feel like you're reading like an autobiography or like a history book. It's like, it's very engaging.
yeah, this is not a science book, but it has science in it, and
Yeah.
you do learn. And again, while there's things that maybe I don't necessarily agree with, I don't think there's anything wrong in there, for sure. This is all that, like you said, people. She's very good
Hmm.
at having this is how this works, and she's not wrong. It just the way she wants to go about it. Maybe it's like I don't know if that works with our culture.
Right.
Her whole thesis is we should think more like the Native Americans.
More reciprocal, more giving, more generosity.
Yeah,
Like that's
and
kind of the biggest takeaway, which we live in a very consumerist
yeah, and I said it's just so there's incompatibilities at times, and she acknowledges that too, which is very good.
oh yeah, 100%. I feel like that's like kind of there's like a whole chapter on it, I think, a whole essay on her talking about the way that we're currently living and how it's problematic and how it would be great to go the other way, but we just it's not like you can just jump into, oh, all of a sudden we have no money. We're just giving things to each other back and forth.
Yeah,
There's obviously got to be some sort of slow change over time.
yeah. So this is a bunch of essays. The first story she starts off with a creation myth, which was pretty moving. And I'm gonna just read a quick quote here, unless if you want to continue reading. Yeah, okay. So I said this is one of the Native American creation stories, and in the way that she talks, it sounds like she's speaking for all Native Americans. Remember that there's many cultures on this continent that were Native American. They all have similar stories, but they're all different. She's talking from her personal experiences, and eventually, later in the book, she does bring it talk to other natives from the other side of the country who have slightly different stories. So
Because her family, she got relocated to an area with a different in a different nation, like tribal nation.
yes,
She
yes.
was
So
originally from the Great Lakes, I believe, is where her indigenous roots are, and then she ended up over.
well, if I believe, and I might be wrong
Hmm.
here, their documented story of white people,
Hmm.
us white people,
Yeah, I know. Honestly, though, like
it is the Great Lakes,
like
but
Michigan, right?
Michigan. But when she started digging deeper, she realized her tribe originally were in New York,
Okay.
and so that's where she ended up going back to, and where she lives or lived,
Yeah, yeah, I think she's near
and
Syracuse or something
yeah,
like
but I can't think of the name of the ultra tribe, but it was like the Mohawks and
that. Yeah, they were the first tribes to form a voting, right?
yeah, they're considered the first true
First
democratic,
Nation or something. Yeah,
yeah, First Nation. But yeah, it was
yeah,
like I think like 5 or 7 tribes came together
like
to unite
collectively. Yeah.
collectively to fight against the European invaders,
Yes. Yeah.
and
I remember that.
yeah, and but her tribe was part of that, and I believe she was part, but then they got pushed out into the Michigan area,
That would make
and
sense.
then they got down to Oklahoma where
Right, that's
for
where they got moved
yeah they got
with
moved
by the white
to
people was down to
yeah once they
Oklahoma.
did the territories
Yeah.
and whatnot, and then her family eventually came back to this area. She left and came back, and
Yeah. Yep. She went
so
down to Kentucky at one point. I think it's in there too.
yeah. But anyway, so this is the creation story she gives us, or just one little excerpt of it. Same species, same Earth, different stories. Like creation stories everywhere, cosmologies are a source of identity and orientation to the world. They tell us who we are. We are inevitably shaped by them, no matter how distant they may be from our consciousness. One story leads to the generous embrace of the living world, the other to banishment. One woman is our ancestral gardener, a co-creator of the good green world that would be the home of her descendants. The other was an exile just passing through an alien world and a rough road to her real home in heaven. So what she's doing, she's comparing the Judeo-Christian religion
Yeah.
versus hers, where they're very people of the earth, where Christians are extracting, where the and how they just move from place to place to place. They have no real. We're just Christians believe our real home is in heaven.
Right.
Therefore, we're just here for a short time. We don't need to necessarily take care of it.
Yeah, we don't have like those roots, like those
Yes.
deep roots like the indigenous people where they look back at their ancestors and the community is super important. They're where they're from and where they live is very important. Their surrounding area, which is like totally lacking, I feel like. And
Yeah, and again, a lot of her stories later in later essays connect back to this. The mother that seeded the earth with soil and plant life, and
the story, the Sky Woman story,
yeah, Sky Woman story. That's where this
yeah,
came out of.
yeah, it's actually the story made me cry because it's Turtle Island, right? This
Yes,
is filmed
Turtle
on Turtle
Island.
Island, and they ended up needing to put they all they needed was soil, but it was completely covered in water, and the animals each had to dive and try their best to get soil from the bottom
Yeah,
of like this pond, ocean, whatever you want to call it. And the creature that was able to get it was like the smallest creature. Was it like a muskrat? I feel
yeah,
like it was a
yeah.
muskrat.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the story was so totally touched my heart. And but I love that it all starts with a woman too. I think that's kind of badass, and it makes sense, right? Like
Well, I think a lot of original creation stories do start with
yeah,
women. I mean, you look at even old European religions all start with female
right,
creators. It wasn't until later that male creators came in,
true,
and it was basically like the Romans and the Greeks started bringing that in, and then Christianity and
right.
Jews brought that in, and that male creation story. But I said if you look back at the original, a lot of old Asian
Hmm.
and Indian stories, it's more women.
That makes sense. And I think this isn't this creation story isn't shared by all of them, but there's a similar sort of creation story among many different tribes,
Yeah,
but they
and
all have their own unique
yes,
individual
as I
creation
said, yeah,
story.
they're all a little bit different. Some are very different depending on what region of the Americas you came from.
Right.
But again, this is northeastern to Midwest, general story.
Yeah. My one of my favorite chapters in the book, I'm going to steal this, is the one where she is talking about reciprocity and like actually the gift, like giving your gift to the world. Do you remember? Oh my gosh, let's see if I can find it. Like gift economy,
Yeah, gift economy.
working on a gift economy, and how every single different creature brings a different gift. Like the maple tree brings sap, which makes maple syrup. The ash trees, like she goes to a tribe in, was it within New York, and they make ash baskets,
Yeah, that it might have been
or
Kentucky,
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. It wasn't New York. Yeah, she bounces around a lot. Sometimes it's a little hard to figure out where exactly in the country she is.
Mm.
Because I think part of what she's doing, she's trying to meld together all the different natives into one umbrella because they are kind of
All indigenous
all
people.
indigenous people, and they're just their stories are getting forgotten, and so they're trying to find one
Right.
cohesiveness to bring
Yeah.
them
Yeah,
together.
she's trying to keep their stories alive, essentially. But she's talking about everything having a gift, and the only thing that you have to do in life is just give your gift freely and accept the gifts of others. And how the ash tree is for baskets, maple trees are for sugar, and they come at the perfect time, like right when there's no calories left, right? I mean, February, March is right when like food rations are running out, and deer's like
Yeah, in Europe, it was actually often called the hunger time because
yeah,
basically winter was ending and the last of the potatoes or whatever winter foods that they held were going out, and they just didn't have food supplies until they could plant the early crops.
right. It's literally like a last resort thing. And it's such a calorie dense food, I guess you want to call it maple syrup, but it and the gift that humans have is the gift of gratitude, which I thought was really incredible. How we have that's our unique gift is just to express gratitude.
And the whole thing with the sweetgrass, the braiding sweetgrass, is that the person picks the grass, makes the braid to give to somebody to then burn and
Right.
show gratitude
Yeah.
to. So it is, giving, a circle of giving essentially.
Yeah, that's like where the reciprocity, the idea behind reciprocity comes from, is that you are giving and receiving, and that is instead of giving money in exchange for things. It's not necessarily an exchange. It's like this open,
Yeah, yeah, because she did bring that where oftentimes she'll, but not so much bemoan, but just kind of sadly talk about how with our economy, she'll see other people from her peoples at these fairs and whatnot selling stuff that would normally just be given
right.
away, and saying that it's lost all of its meaning because you've exchanged money, which is just this emotionless thing, and you haven't worked on it. You haven't been given to someone who you knew who worked on it, because it's an equal trade. It's not just given.
Right. And everything is like so transactional in our lives now. We don't just do something. I mean, people do, definitely, but more often than not, you're not just doing something for someone just because you want to. Like, a lot of times people expect something back in return. And the whole idea that she's talking about is like, as far as like giving this sweetgrass or giving gifts, is you're just doing it because you have abundance or because you want to. And I think she's right. Like, everything is super transactional, even like within our families and our friends. A lot of our relationships, it's like, oh, I'm doing this for you because I want something in return, or oh, you did something for me. Now I feel like I owe you.
Yeah, it's definitely getting to feel that way. I mean, I know like this year, me and Becky have decided less on gifts and more on experiences,
Yeah.
and kind of, go on that route. So like I already got my Christmas present early because we went to go see John Cleese. He'll give a it will do a showing of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
It's another movie I literally haven't seen. Everyone's finding it. Not watch a single movie.
Uh,
The worst.
yeah, I forget sometimes that you have lived under a rock. You know who John Cleese is, though, right?
No,
British comedian.
I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's fun though if you're into it.
Wow, that just sounds like that's this there.
I know nothing about it. I feel like they played Monty Python videos for me at like portions of it at the
Yeah,
summit.
I'm sure they've
At the
done that,
summit.
because yeah, I think they've done that. I'm sure you've had other friends that have just quoted and you just right over your head.
Oh, I thought I had come up with all these clever quotes. Fine. Come to find out, they're all from movies. I had no idea. So sorry.
He was the smartest man on earth.
It's like, wow, he's funny. Yeah, no. Sorry, a little tangent, but
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, and this is one of those things that I struggle through the book with, this constant reciprocity, and
mm,
like how to actually do that. And again, Robin battles with that too, saying like not everything, she knows not everything can be a gift in this world that we live in. You have to buy stuff.
people have to live.
People have to live, and we're in this world that just straight up giving isn't possible to survive. But where can you give more so that things have more meaning?
Yeah, how do we get closer to that? I
Yeah.
think is we are like you have to pay your taxes, unfortunately, and
Yes.
those are should. But it is kind of, I don't want to say impossible. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but it's pretty out there.
And I mean, and again, she's showing the native tradition in a certain light for sure. And even Native Americans didn't have a straight reciprocity. And they did have an economy where things were traded and transactions were made, because you have other peoples, and maybe it's like, hey, I really need that. I can't afford not to have that. I will barter my I need that canoe. I'll barter this couple cords of firewood with you,
Right. Yeah, totally.
because you need you spent weeks and weeks building that canoe and putting it all together, and yeah, we just need that. So it's like it's not like there's no such thing as a true
True
giving
economy.
true gift economy. And but again, we just need to find a way to get off the just let's buy everything and nothing has meaning anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I had my best friend read this book because I made everybody I know read this book.
Yeah, you made me read your book, Haley. I know.
And we started just, at least between the two of us and with our friends, being very intentional about doing things for someone just because you thought of it or because you wanted to, and not expecting something in return, or not immediately feeling like you have to give something in return because somebody gave something to you. Like, for example, my best friend was sick last week. I made her some soup. I brought her some cough medicine. I did that because I wanted to. It's not because I want something from her. And I feel like in the past it might have been like, oh, I did all this stuff for her. It was really nice, but like, what's she gonna do for me? Or oh, I feel like I owe her something.
I mean, I've always kind of leaned towards that with friends and family. The way I always frame it differently is, oh, I'll work out in a wash in the end. It's not worth keeping track of. And if it gets to the point where I feel like I'm having to keep track of it, it's because you clearly just don't care about me, and
Right.
therefore I should just kind of move away from that relationship.
Yeah. Positive relationships, there should be a balance. Like if you're in a good relationship, there should be some amount of balance.
Yeah, and it's I want to give you something because I care for you, and you want to give me something that because you care for me. It's gonna work out.
Right. Yeah, we're not keeping score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the my favorite things in the book, part of the book, was the triple planting. Do you remember that with the planting the corn?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, three sisters.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good story.
Yeah.
And it's just and I was like, because I worked at as a kid, I worked at a farm stand,
Oh, cool.
and we grew pumpkins.
Okay.
And the worst thing in the world was going through weeding and doing all that stuff that you do with farming, on a you
It's
know commercial farm. We were it was a fun job because we worked for Yankee Siege, where we they had a 3-story, 4-story tall trebuchet, and they chucked pumpkins at a castle.
easy.
You thought you had a fun childhood.
Actually,
Uh,
it was all worth it.
but yeah, so it said wasn't all terrible, but it said it was. But reading that, it's like, man, if we just grew corn and beans, all this work to do.
And you have more crops.
Yeah, and because as you said, it's the beans are fertilizing the corn. The corn is giving the beans
A trellis,
a
essentially.
trellis, yeah, and then the pumpkins or squash or whatever you're growing is creating the shade to stop the weeds from coming in.
Yeah. I mean, it makes total
Yeah,
sense. I've never done it. I would love to do it.
yeah,
I'd love to see it actually
yeah.
come
And
to fruition.
it's like all I could think was like, and again, from a natural resources background, it's one of the things we always talked about was crop rotations,
Hmm.
and growing up a farm, crop rotations, and it's you don't even have to rotate the crop. You got all, because it used to be you have 3 crops and then a fallow field. This one's like, no, you can grow all three at the same time, and you're getting a better production out of it.
Yeah, because the beans are essentially fixing nitrogen,
Yeah,
ideally,
yeah, and the
and corn
corn
is
is
really nitrogen
yeah, corn is
heavy
heavy,
feeder. Yeah.
and then I said, but because the beans grow so slow, the other weeds can overtake them.
Right.
That's why you need the squash that's low to the ground, and the squash, because the way the vines go out, they're not taking the majority of their water from the corn or the beans,
That makes
because
sense.
they're going out.
Yeah. I think honestly, it's how forests work. Essentially, you have the low growing plants, right?
Yep.
You have the more like shrubs or, you know, and then you have the trees, which would be like the corn.
Well, so forests are a little different, but like she was saying with the sweetgrass and was it the cedar trees?
Oh, I don't remember.
Uh,
I remember her sweetgrass experiment though.
yeah, that which
It was
is
badass
yeah.
because she was like, "Oh, you guys think you know? No."
Well, what was great with that experiment was even she was surprised, because so we'll gear off to that right now.
Yeah.
So the experiment was because sweetgrass is disappearing all across its native territory, and the big thing was, do you leave it alone? Do you pick it? Do you rip it out? And the natives all said you have to do something with it. You can't just leave it. Where the conservationists say you can't touch anything, leave it alone, let nature do its thing. And so the two native camps were, you cut it off or you pinch it off at the base, or you just rip it out of the ground. And Robin had a grad student that said, let's
Let's test that theory.
test this theory. Planted 3 plots. The don't touch it was the control, and then your two other methods were, okay, let's see what happens. And of course, I'm getting frustrated because she keeps telling stories. I was like, just give me the end. He says it right at the end, and it's like, but leaving it alone, the sweetgrass dies off.
It literally had the lowest return. It
Yeah,
was you didn't do anything
yeah.
with.
The ones that did the best, the ones you rip out of the ground.
Yeah.
And when they started doing the scientific tests, it was like, oh yeah, you
They
need
spread through rhizomes or
yeah,
something.
the spread through rhizomes, and when it starts getting too crowded, it stops spreading and starts dying off.
Makes sense,
So
but you don't think of it like
yeah, but
that.
because Robin was in
The cutting it camp, right?
the cutting it camp, and she would get in arguments with other people that were just ripping it out. So you can't rip it out. But again, also the native tradition says you never pull the first one or the last one you see, and you only pull as little as you absolutely need.
Yeah, you don't take more than you need.
Yeah, so it's that was for anything, collecting, gathering any sort of herb or fungus or whatever you needed, for medicines, for building kayaks or weaving baskets. You don't you take bare minimum, and you don't take the first, you don't take the last.
Yeah.
And so going with that tradition, and I know like trees, you can cut off 20% of the crown, the branches, and the tree will survive.
Oh wow, I
And
did not know that. That's
and
insane.
thrive. So you take 20% of something out there. Well, now you're given more space for things to come back.
Makes yeah, it makes it's and I think that it was close, right? Like the cutting and the ripping, they both did better than leaving it
Yeah, they
alone.
both did better, but it was a scientifically significant difference even between the cutting and the pulling.
Right. Yeah, and then they taught indigenous people some this information as well, correct? Of proper
Yes,
harvesting.
yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
they spread us. But yeah, uh but getting back to like the trees, there are certain kinds of trees, and I'd have to look up the exact species, but there's these two species of trees that are connected in the root system by a fungus.
Okay. Well,
And I always forget which two. One's a evergreen, one's a broadleaf.
yeah, and if you remove one, the other doesn't thrive.
Exactly.
And people were like,
And they've done tests on this where they measure the nutrients different times of the year and found that the fungus can control the nutrients and send some to the hardwoods in the winter when they're not don't have leaves to survive. And then when the broadleaves come out and they kind of block out the sun for the conifers, they will send nutrients to the evergreens to keep them going until winter. And they even act as the fungus acts as a quote unquote referee, where if one tree or one group of trees is trying to steal more nutrients than it needs, it will actually hurt those trees. Almost like it almost sounds sentient, but it's not.
yeah, that's well, it kind of is, right? I mean, like it kind of is. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah. It has that sentient feeling to it, where it's like, oh, it
yeah,
is aware enough. There's enough neurological, even though there's no neurons.
totally crazy side story about how people have this theory that evolution happened because monkeys ate mushrooms.
Yes, I've heard that from Joe Rogan. If you listen to Joe Rogan on his theories
Evolution,
on evolution and just the people eating
like
mushrooms,
psilocybin in general. Talking about fungi, and I was like, "Oh my god, you're right. Fungi, it's living, it's real, it's breathing, it's thinking." But I was that. I don't think it was in this book though. Was it?
it might have been in this book briefly. I've heard it a lot in other places. I've
Yeah,
known about
communication network.
yeah, it's communication. So we knew about it when I was in college 2 decades ago.
Well, majority of people didn't know this though because I feel like people are still monocropping or
Oh
doing
yeah, well yeah, it's a, we've known for centuries that you need a monocrops are bad,
right.
but they do it anyways. They don't care. It's like in college we learned herds. So you got cattle,
Hmm.
sheep, horses, goats, whatever. Well, apparently a lot of these different farm animals eat different kinds of grass,
Yeah, and they
and
leave behind different types of nutrients,
and so you're supposed to rotate them
like
too.
pasture rotations.
Yeah, pasture rotations, and what do? We just throw cows out there, nothing else. And then we buy all of our lamb, which is amazing because I love lamb.
Okay.
Uh, we buy all that from New Zealand when we could have a much healthier ecosystem with better production from cattle and sheep.
Mm. Same with wool. All of our
So,
wool is
yeah.
sourced from
Oh yeah,
Australia and New Zealand.
yeah. And so we could do it all ourselves, have better production of our beef, but because the beef industry is, oh no, that's just going to hurt us because there's
Get
two.
it?
Yeah.
Heard us.
They're so worried about a lost profit that they're hurting,
But in reality, it would actually be beneficial.
beneficial.
Same with interplanting multiple species.
Exactly.
Like diversity is really the answer, essentially, is what we're saying here.
Yeah. And
All the answers to all the
yeah.
problems.
And so, we were talking about this earlier, Haley, but I kind of want to bring it up. with the American elms and American chestnut. Yeah. So I recently we heard that dire wolves and woolly mammoths were coming back. It's not true dire wolves or woolly mammoths because they don't have the genetic information for it, nor do they were they pulling from the correct sources for elephants and wolves to have a true dire wolf or woolly mammoth. That said, and so they do this through CRISPR, which is a gene editing tool that has revolutionized for the last basically 2.5 decades now the ability to do what we do. So we see this a lot in crops like corn.
Oh,
Uh,
this is like the genetically modified.
Genetically modified. This is one of the things that they're using to create resistances to the weevils, or they're doing it experimentally on animals, obviously, to bring back extinct animals.
Crazy.
Well, the elm trees, American elm trees, were taken out by, I believe,
Some
a
sort of beetle, right?
some sort of beetle from Asia, and the chestnuts were taken out by a blight, I believe, from some sort of something from Europe. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong where they came from, but basically they're near extinct. But we still have a few. I think we should take CRISPR because we can grow Asian elms and other kinds of chestnuts, and they've kind of come back a little bit here, but and they do well in their environments. But I think we should take CRISPR and bring back these native trees that because we look at like the redwoods out on the west coast, elms and chestnuts used to be that tall,
That is insane.
and
I
like
just saw the redwoods for the first time this year.
yeah,
It's crazy.
but so and we can get into it later if you want, but Kimmer talks a lot about bringing the cedars back to the west coast and the east coast, which are quickly disappearing and
Their
not very.
growth rate is really slow,
Yeah,
which
and
is part of the problem. They're being harvested way faster than they can
exactly, and
grow.
that's what happened initially with a lot of these older trees. To get a 200-foot tree, it takes
Right.
hundreds of years.
Well,
And
you would know probably New Hampshire was
well,
logged like in 90% of New Hampshire.
New England, 90% of New England was logged in fields, and and these trees were the size of redwoods. These elms and chestnut, American chestnut seeds are like the size of your fist. So imagine a like a 1 pound seed falling 150 feet out of a
Yeah,
tree.
that is
You have to walk around,
dangerous,
yeah.
actually. That's dangerous.
Oh, and so I just got a note from our sometimes producer. So and revival projects have worked, especially in and we've had done it in New England, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, brought back wild turkeys. They were basically wiped out from these areas.
Turkeys.
Turkeys, yeah, and now we're thick with them. And it took 10 years for them to get established, and after that, we've been hunting them, and they've been upping the bag limit on them recently because we got so many. So
I had
it's been
no
one of the
idea.
most successful reintroductions. Like wolves get all the attention, the turkeys is probably the most successful introduction of
I
a
think it's because people have a lot of beef about wolves. They're really angry about it.
yeah.
Turkeys are like, you know, they're not so bad. People get really mad about reintroduction of wolves.
Yes, they get mad about every stupid thing.
The trees, back to that, sorry.
Yeah.
Can't they not reproduce though? A true to self if they're genetically modified.
So well, the whole genetically modified thing is always a sticky subject
Mm.
because technically every crop that we eat is genetically modified, whether we do it through a lab or just do it.
Like hybrids, like breeding, selective
Yeah,
breeding.
because you think we was back in the 1300s, we started genetically modifying a lot of our grains
Mm,
because we realized, hey, some grains produce better, so let's keep some of those around, make sure that those get reproduced at a higher rate, get rid of the ones that don't do anything for us. Is you look at what corn used to look like versus what it looks like now.
right.
Corn looked like what wheat looks like, only sadder.
Just sad wheat.
So yes, it would not be truly the same, but what they've tried to bring elms and American chestnuts back, but as soon as they take root, like the I don't know how true it is. Well, the guy that told me this is known to get his facts wrong, but he was saying that they've planted American chestnuts, they thrive for 15 years, and then the blight will come in and kill them once they get to a certain
Hmm.
height and maturity level.
Interesting.
And the elm trees
So we just need to
basically,
give them resistance.
yeah, we need to give them this resistance. So kind of do what we're doing with like Soros does with corn or whatever the seed company is that
Right.
rules the world.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
even remember. I don't even want to know.
yeah, they they they've made it, and granted, it becomes an arms race, but to give these trees a chance to come back, establish, so that they can then do what they, because once they get have a mature tree, they're resistant to almost anything,
Right, and they're a native
and
species.
they're a
They're
native
not, we would
species.
be
Yeah,
reintroducing something, or we
yeah,
wouldn't be introducing something.
and also, like at the place I work at, we need to do a big replanting of trees because a lot of the trees have died, and we're very big on wanting evergreens like pines and spruce, but we also have the Eastern American cedars that we could bring back. And I've been, after reading this book, I'm like, hey, we got a bunch that are stunted right now because they're in this very shady area. Why don't we transplant those to the areas that we need new trees?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's, I
And they're
got,
resistant to like everything.
yeah, oh, yeah. Again, they're slow growing, but they live hundreds and hundreds of years. And yeah, they for where I work at, the drop off, because they still get some die off of every fall of things falling off. It would be semi problematic for why we don't want the broadleaves,
Okay.
but you plant them strategically, and it's a wet area where I work, so
Okay.
it would be. And they're reading this book. It sounds like they're kind of a swampy tree, anyways.
Yeah, because they thrive in like the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because you have a West Coast and a East Coast version of them, and basically we cut down most of the East Coast ones that were of any worth because of size, and we didn't quite kill off all the West Coast ones, so we can see. Oh yeah, these things do grow 150 feet tall.
I had
Yeah, they're almost they're not quite the same height as redwoods, but they're damn close, and they're the same similar ages.
I would love to see that. I mean, it's not going to happen in my lifetime, but how
Oh,
in,
yeah, why not?
I don't think I got 100 years to see it. That would be old. But
Oh, you're young still.
yeah, that would be incredible. And they're a great tree for building too, if it's done appropriately, if they're
Oh yeah,
harvested
oh yeah,
appropriately.
yeah, and yeah. Again, the cedars. We get several chapters of how best to build with those, and without even killing the tree, you can peel off the bark and use that as for stuff. So yeah. You have any other sections you want to talk about, Haley?
The Wendigo
The
section.
Wendigo section.
The
Okay.
Wendigo. You actually highlighted a thing in here, I think. She has a small essay about this creature that they call the Wendigo in there.
Is people I'm sure will be familiar with some horror movies.
Is it like a familiar idea?
It has become a more familiar trope in horror movies, the Wendigo, because in horror movies it's the unbeatable evil thing that just consumes everybody, and and in this story it makes sense. It is a horrific creature, and the how they're made is quite horrific, and
I'm trying to
you
find the
find it.
description. I found the chapter. I'm trying to find, there's a description. It's essentially this being that has this unsatiable hunger. And oh my gosh, where is the. She has like the best description of it.
Take your time, Haley. This is only an audio podcast.
I think. Start out. No, keep my awkward silence in here. It's kind of nice. Like everybody, just practice your deep breathing while I look for the description of this. Oh, I can't find the. I'm in the chapter, but
You're just looking for the description of the
she
creature.
did a really good description of this creature and how it has this unsatiable hunger and how it's actually a really good analogy for certain people in the world these days that have this like unsatiable hunger for power and money. And it's like essentially greed.
Is it this first paragraph here?
It might be. I'm gonna read it. And if it's not. The Wendigo is the legendary monster of our Anishinaabe people. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. The villain of a tale told on freezing nights in the North Woods. You can feel it lurking behind you, a being in the shape of an outsized man, 10 feet tall, with frost white hair hanging from its shaking body. With arms like tree trunks, feet as big as snowshoes, it travels easily through the blizzards of the hungry time, stalking us. The hideous stench of its carrion breath poisons the clean scent of snow as it pants behind you. Yellow fangs hang from its mouth that is raw where it has chewed off its lips from hunger. Most telling of all, its heart is made of ice. this the creature, she connects it back to the way that people have been behaving, and essentially this greed that people constantly have, in this need for always needing more. And I just feel like,
Was that the section you were looking for?
yeah, I don't know exactly where it is, but I feel like that whole chapter, it's super short, it's like 3 pages, but she brings it back up a couple other times. And I loved that chapter, although I was terrified because I think I was like listening to it at night in my car, and I was
So you're the good horror trope then.
like, die first in a horror movie for sure. For sure. But I can't find the good description of it, but I love that
So I
chapter.
just cautionary Wendigo tales arose in a commons-based society where sharing was essential to survival, and greed made any individual a danger to the whole. In the old times, individuals who endangered the community by taking too much for themselves were first counseled, then ostracized, and if greed continued, they were eventually banished. The Wendigo myth may have arisen from the remembrance of the banished doomed to wander hungry and alone, wreaking vengeance on the ones who spurned them. It is a terrible punishment to be banished from the web of reciprocity. I hate that word. Reciprocity with with no one to share with you and no one for you to care for.
Yeah, that's the part. I think I just love that it's this big evil villain, and actually it's just actually a piece of everyone. And she ties back to how we all have the within us somewhere we could possess this trait of greed or taking more than you need, and try, like, essentially we all have that, and if we can do everything we can to not act that way, not be that, and but also acknowledge that, like, it's within all of us. Like,
Mhm.
you're not no one's special.
Yeah, and like she said, it can happen to anybody when you're least expecting it. It could be the nicest person in the world, and they just all of a sudden let that monster get a hold of them. And
Yeah. Yeah, and just move forward with compassion, reciprocity. She does reciprocity a lot in this book.
yeah, he does it.
Yeah,
I don't, I have bad ability to talk sometimes. Words trip me up.
that's
Words are hard.
I spent 15 minutes looking for the section that I was looking for. So funny.
Uh, I found it in 2 seconds.
Yeah, time's ticking.
That silence, man.
There was another part I think we're going to talk about that you'd mentioned earlier.
So one thing I it amused me, and kind of my evil part of the brain was the Kimmer's problem with trapping.
Oh, right.
She there at one point she's meeting with a trapper who's also indigenous. I think it might have been up in Canada, and he's a trapper, and this is one of those ones where he's not trapping for himself or for the tribe. He's trapping to sell to white people, and so it's a transaction, and she's struggling with the whole we're killing these creatures for their fur, but it's also allowing this guy to survive so that he can create better, because he also would then give back to nature and do the reciprocity thing. And but she's looking at, oh well, you're not using all the parts of the animals. Like, well, no, not every part, but there's other parts I can now use to I'm taking to bait more animals, and I'm doing my sacrifices, burning to
Mm.
to nature to for my gratitude and all that stuff. I just found that it was, and again, I went to college in Alaska, so in Alaska, trapping is critical for survival for a lot of Alaska natives, and and just anyone that lives up there that wants to live with the wilderness. You need the furs, and but trapping has gotten such a bad name. It is, base almost like a, the worst swear word Haley could ever come up with there. For most environmentalists and nature lovers, is trapping. And as someone who does trap for part of my job, and it's not a part I necessarily love, because the way we're forced to trap and whatnot, and I disagree with, and what we're allowed to do with what we trap, I disagree with, but it is something that we need to do for my job, because we're, just what we do, and again, just for survivability. And I guess like what I'm getting at is like he's selling the fur to make fur coats for rich American women. It's kind of the implication. And is that morally okay, or is it some,
Or that greedy.
or just greed? And it was fun seeing her, not fun but interesting, I guess, to see her struggling through in her writing, as she is weighing the pros and cons on both sides.
Yeah, because I wonder if it's more about the how, and not actually what he's doing, but the how and why.
I think it was the. I don't think it was the how. I think it was
The why,
the
maybe.
why. I think that's where she was struggling because I think if he was saying he's like, yeah, I take the furs and then I sew myself my winter clothes, my winter boots. Is like I think she would say, okay, yes, that
Because
works
you're
in
not
that sense.
taking more than you need in that sense. But
Exactly.
since
But the
he does need money, right? We all need money to live.
yeah, and it's not like he is making bank, living the life of a multimillionaire. He
Right,
is then able to take that money to reinvest it into creating better habitat for the animals he's trapping.
right.
And he that's what he is doing, and he's putting it back into his native community, and so that other people can create, even more uh, natural wealth of nature. So it's one of those, again, the lesser evil maybe. And it's not like he's industrial trapping. It is,
He's not doing anything inherently
yeah,
wrong.
and he's not. He won't trap animals that are endangered. And it, is again the whole idea of trapping people has become so hard. It's people just say, "Oh, you put a trap out," like the Fox and the Hound. You ever watch that movie
I
as a
did
kid?
as a kid, but I
Yeah,
think I was actually scarred.
yeah. Well, it's a painful movie. I
Okay.
don't blame you. It was,
I think
but, but
one of the dogs' names is the dog Copper.
yes,
Oh,
something like
I
that.
think so. Oh,
Yeah,
yep. I think I have watched that.
yeah, and yeah, the flashbacks. But they put the spiked leg traps, and it's just, oh, anything could walk through, and these poor animals, and it's not how trapping actually works. Those traps are typically illegal in most places now.
Like a leg trap.
Like leg traps, like,
Yeah.
they're still, or leg traps that damage the leg without killing.
Okay.
And as most trappers will tell you, they don't want to damage the fur, and they don't want the animal to live. They'd rather have a trap like a mouse trap, which is like, I think most traps I read are 98% kill.
Okay.
So versus wound. So there's still misses, but if it's gonna hit the mouse, 98% chance that it will kill it on the snap, and
Right.
that's what trappers want. Because see, I knew a trapper in Alaska, and he says like, yeah, we catch a coyote in the wrong kind of trap, they'll chew their leg off,
Yeah, and no one wants that.
and they've ruined the pellet. It's not worth hardly anything anymore. And he's like, well, I don't want that to happen because that's money out of my pocket. I don't want to kill the animal for no reason. And I don't want a fur that's worthless. So it's like,
Right.
so they'd rather have, so there are, it's a lot of methods to trapping that people just don't understand. And is that you can see that Kimmer was starting, she, never part of her world before, and she just heard the hype of the anti-trapping communities. And yeah, a lot of trapping that was done back in the day, back in the early 20th century, 19th century, where they were wiping out whole areas of every animal. That is bad. And I
Right.
think
That's what people think of.
yeah, that's what people think of, and that's what modern trappers are trying to say. No, change that image now. Say no, no, no. We want more mink and stouts and
Right.
stoats or whatever, coyotes, because we want our children to be able to do this. We don't want these to disappear.
Yeah, it's like the same thing as like farmers, I think, a similar idea where people think that these cattle farmers, these monocroppers, that they don't care about the land, but that they rely on that. Of course they care about it. They're just doing the best that they can.
Yeah, and I think even the foresters, people see, the loggers. Well, you're just gonna strip the place bare. It's like, well, no, a lot of them, especially the responsible ones, have gone to college, realized, hey, just clear cutting an area is terrible. If we're gonna clear cut it, we're gonna replant trees there.
Right.
And again, it's like, yeah, it's gonna take 20, 30, 40 years for those trees to come back. But when they come back, now my kids have a place to have a job and appreciate nature.
Yeah,
And
security.
yeah, and on top of it, there's also now a lot of ways to log where you're creating better habitat.
Mm.
So one of my dad's friends, childhood friends he grew up with, he was a forester. He had a 150 acre piece of property, family property, and when his parents passed away, he inherited the property, and first thing he does is log it. And what he did though was he created edge pieces. So basically, he would log a 20 acre piece, have a 20 foot border of trees around it, log a 10-acre piece, have a 20-foot border of trees around it, and create these different size patchworks all throughout the wooded property, and then just let everything come back naturally because you got all these seed trees essentially, and most animals live in the edge forest, so they're coming out is a lot of their food is in the clear cut areas a year or two after you've clear cut,
Right.
but where they want to bed down and hide, they want it extra dense. But if you get deep in the forest, as you know,
Mhm.
it opens up where trees are 50,
Because
100
there's
feet.
no
There's not enough light for the smaller stuff.
yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, old growth is kind of a myth now because most of the trees, especially on the East Coast, were gone, like we were talking about. And there might be one or two trees that survived.
Yeah, there's like a very small
And while there is use for those, having a whole forest of just old growth is not good for the wildlife. If you want higher wildlife, you need this high edge space.
interesting.
So a lot of loggers now will create more edge space and just leave big swaths of trees around. And so again, it's they're getting better production, faster regrowth doing that
By leaving those other
by
trees.
leaving those
Yeah.
other trees. And again, a lot of foresters are college students now recognize that and say, hey, if I leave these trees here, I don't have to go back and replant this. I don't have to spend money to replant this. It will naturally come back itself, come back stronger. It'll be good for other habitat, for other wildlife. Other people can now use it. People can, who just want to watch the wildlife, or people that want to hunt, or people that want to do something else with that land short term, where you're not developing it, and then eventually it'll come back, and instead of having to wait 40 years, maybe it's 30 years to regenerate.
Yeah. I also I love that. I think in the book Kimmer is able to see things she might not have agreed with and look at the other point of view. Kind of like what we're talking about
She's
now.
very good at that. Yeah.
She's willing to say like, okay, I wouldn't have agreed with this in the beginning, but let me hear you out. Like for instance, this trapper. I don't remember that chapter specifically, but I'm assuming that she came to a conclusion where she kind of understood where he was coming from. She does a pretty good job of, even when she doesn't necessarily agree, she can understand where somebody's coming from, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's definitely very good. Is there any other chapters you want to talk about?
I don't really. I can't think of anything. Oh, I loved the witch Hazel chapter where she
Yeah.
has this adorable little neighbor when she lived in Kentucky, and the other woman was like a true Southern woman who had started really using plants as medicine, and they created this really incredible bond and friendship. And all this one woman wanted, her name was Hazel, was Christmas at her house, but she no longer lived at home, and Kimmer was able to create this experience for her. And it was really beautiful. And that chapter was actually told by the by Robin's daughter, which I think was really, really neat. It's a short chapter, kind of off topic, but it was a really cute chapter. And her one about motherhood was incredible. Do you
Yeah, I kind of remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I'm not a mother, but I can imagine being a mother. That chapter made me cry. So the way she talks about motherhood and the the role of motherhood and watching your children grow and also connecting it back to nature and
Well, remember was she was also mothering the pond
yeah, yeah,
and
and
rehabilitating the pond to be something that our kids could swim in, but also instead of being just a dead pond for people to swim in, also have a vibrant ecological life
right.
growing there.
For other creatures to have their children live there. I think she realized that while she was pulling weeds out
Yeah,
that there were
yeah.
like frogs and she's like,
And
who am I?
yeah, weighing the pros and cons of taking out this one plant, killing this plant and whatever creatures needed that plant to bring in another plant to bring in this other creature that might, and what is more important, and having to make that decision for Mother Nature.
Right. This constant balance of
Yeah,
like how do you, yeah.
and still making it so people would want to, the children or neighbors or her would want to go swimming in it.
Because anybody that's been in a pond that's like just filled with weeds, like that's
Oh
not
yeah,
a fun
it's nasty.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was reading this chapter like you wouldn't catch me in that pond. So I get why she's trying to pull everything out, but also like I think she has a pretty good point is who am I to take the habitat away for these other creatures to live their life?
Yeah.
So
Was there the chapter two where she was saving the salamanders too? And
I saw these salamanders for the first time ever
really,
this year. I don't know.
yeah,
I had never seen one.
yeah,
The yellow spotted
yeah,
salamander.
yeah.
They're fucking
Oh, yeah.
huge.
So I was at work shoveling a pile of leaves that have been there for I, 4 or 5 years, and it's this time of year, so it's November-ish, maybe early December, and it's stuff's composted pretty well,
Yeah,
and
but
I throw it's kind of in a depression, so I'm throwing it up to be able to throw it into a tractor bucket. Eventually, I go and I lift up, and there's this giant, like foot long, stuff. It was, I might have screamed like a girl. It because I just wasn't expecting it. It was going basically getting into its winter home,
yeah,
and we found it. We I think we stopped digging and we kind of let it made it so it could get under more, and
yeah.
so it would survive the winter. But it was like everyone's like, holy crap, that thing is. So of course we're now looking up on the computer like how big did these things actually get, and it was at the higher end of their
That's
how big they get.
really
So
cool.
it was
Yeah, that chapter was neat. She talks about going out on this particular road with her, I think with her daughter or her
well,
college,
she
her college student.
she was doing it alone the one night, and then she hears the people, and she freaks out, thinking it's like bands of hooligans, and turns out it's the another department in the college, and they're trying to do an experiment, and she's messing them up, and
She's basically picking up these yellow spotted salamanders, I
yes,
think they're called. They're ginormous. We're not kidding. Look them up,
yeah,
please. And moving them across the road because they have this mass
yeah, mass migration,
migration.
yeah.
And you don't really see them. Like you really
It,
don't see them other than this
Yeah,
one time of year.
yeah, and they're moving at night typically after a rainstorm because the blacktop is finally a good temperature and the water feels good
It's
on.
like early to mid spring
Yeah,
after a rain.
yeah,
And that's when I saw them. I had like five of them on my front steps, and I'd never seen them before. And after seeing that, I understood how many. Like when she said there's a mass migration of them across this one location, I'm like, oh yeah, if there's five on my front steps, like I can't imagine they're going to this body of water. They basically just go to breed and then they go back.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool chapter because I remember her being like picking these things up, and there's kids doing an experiment to see how many are getting like run over.
Yeah, because we're trying to go back to the town or the state to say, hey, you need to create those underpasses for the wildlife so these guys can get across the road. So they're doing populations of how many got killed versus how many made it across, and they had buckets on the one side, and of course she's getting them all across, so they're just throwing their numbers up, so it's going to make it harder for them to get funding. So
Because she struggled with that
yeah,
because she's like, well, I've been coming out here every year moving these salamanders across the road, but if I don't allow some of them to die, the numbers aren't going to look good and we're not going to get the outcome that we need.
exactly. Yeah, sacrificing the few to save the many.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like something they'd make you do in like a psychology class or ethics class.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of those psychology classes are illegal to do now. Those too many people.
Psychology
Yeah,
of the psychosis.
yeah. The 60s did a lot of questionable experiments on people.
Oh my
You
God.
ever hear about the one that they made kids stutter, like that had no stutter, and now that they end up having to sue the school.
They gave a
They
stutter.
gave them a stutter and they could never shake it.
We
Like
gave them a stutter.
uh so they had two groups, the kids that don't stutter, the kids that do stutter. Then they had two controls. They had the control for the stutterers where they said nothing to them. Then they had the experiment side saying telling them, oh, you did you're not stuttering that bad, that you're doing a good job, and actively helping them. But on the flip side, so they had the control where the kids that don't stutter, they didn't say anything, but then the kids that the other side, they're saying, "Why are you stuttering?" and messing with their heads, and the kids would start stuttering. And again, they'd never lost the stutter. A lot of them,
That is insane.
yeah.
That's illegal, right?
Oh, it's illegal now. I mean, at the time, and but I said they end up going back decades later and suing
Oh my
because they're like, yeah,
God.
we can't not stutter, and
Explain it as they're stuttering.
that's it.
Mean.
And as someone, I used to have a stutter, and I still do stutter occasionally. So it's like, you hear that, it's like,
Oh,
those bastards.
God, that's insane.
Yeah, I got one more quote for the book. It's the end of the Wendigo
Hmm.
chapter. Okay, here we go. Ecological economists argue for reforms that would ground economics and ecological principles in the constraints of thermodynamics. They urge the embrace of the radical notion that we must sustain natural capacity and ecosystem services as if we are to maintain quality of life. But governments still cling to the neoclassical fallacy that human consumption has no consequences. We continue to embrace economic systems that prescribe infinite growth on a finite planet, as if somehow the universe had repealed the laws of thermodynamics on our behalf. Perpetual growth is simply not compatible with natural law, and yet a leading economist like Lawrence Summers of Harvard, the World Bank, and the U.S. National Economic Council issue such statements as there are no limits to the carrying capacity of the earth that are likely to bind at any time in the foreseeable future. The idea that we should put limits on growth because of some natural limit is a profound error. Our leaders willfully ignore the wisdom of the models and the models of every other species on the planet, except, of course, those that have gone extinct. Wendigo thinking.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane that somebody would say that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It literally energy can't be created or destroyed. Like,
Yeah. And that's something that, if you said this, they said in 1850 or or right at the beginning, or then height of the Industrial Revolution in the 1890s, early 1900s. I could totally see them saying that, and being like,
and
yeah,
believe
and at that time, yeah, the oceans seem limitless for food. We are having such rapid growth with limited consequences that we haven't because we haven't seen them yet or understood them. That yeah, that I could see something, but in today's society, no, we have seen, and I know there's a lot of people that would argue against me till they're red in the face, and I just smile and nod. But it's like we have seen that we can make an impact on this planet very negatively, and we need to.
just garbage.
Well, just yeah, the garbage.
In the web, like the weather.
Think of this is well before our time, but you've seen the pictures of all the major cities from the 50s and 60s. They're covered in smog. You
Mm,
can't see them.
yeah.
So like Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, two of the greatest laws that we ever passed as a nation. Of course, they're being stripped now because of stupid people and
I can't eat.
but it's one of those. Yeah, and again, in college, the fallacy of success, thinking that we're going to solve the problem. Well, when the problem disappears, people stop realizing there was ever a problem. So why aren't we doing it? Well, they refuse to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Well, it's good now. What we can fix it later. It's like well, no, it's good because we spent decades cleaning it up.
Right. I think it's really interesting. I feel like now I'm just gonna like dive into this, but like how people think that there is like these unlimited resources. Like why do people think that we're just always gonna have oil? Like, okay, if you want to say in our lifetime, right? Or
Well,
like,
as I remember in college, they would try to predict how much oil could there actually be in the ground, and coming up with these figures, and it would be well, a lot of the models said we would be out of oil now. And then as we see, is oh no, we're not out of oil. Screw
right.
you. It's like, and I remember I had an economies class for that would said, okay, we can figure out how much oil, how much space in the ground there is, and if that is 100% oil versus and put it down. We can actually solve this saying, okay, if there's 6 inches underneath the earth, down through the crust is all
Oh,
oil.
yeah.
We can say how much oil that is. If it's
And how long that would last
yeah,
us.
how long it lasts us, and then go down from there. And it's like yeah, we probably have if you're willing to extract it all at whatever cost, probably 200 years worth of oil at current consumption of
But it just keeps increasing our consumption.
it hasn't and it hasn't. So it's some countries it's increasing, like
Mm.
China. Us, it's actually going down, if not stabilizing, if not going down.
Okay, that makes sense.
And places like China, it's going up a lot slower than it did, say, for us in America, because they're realizing, hey, this is a limited resource.
Right.
We are, and they're burning more than we are.
And we don't want to find out when there's none left
Yeah,
of
and
any of our resources.
but China's saying, hey, we can make really cheap alternatives for energy, so they're taking that route to slow down their rate of growth or rate of consumption of oil. with the plan that once it gets too expensive, those other alternatives of hydro and solar and whatever,
Hmm.
wind, will be able to start taking over for energy consumption. But you're looking at strictly a engineering problem and not an environmental problem,
Which,
which
I mean,
is
some people just have to think that way.
it,
I don't care as long as it gets to the same result, but it's kind of insane that
well,
people.
the problem is they're looking at it from an engineering problem. They're saying when it runs out, we'll have move this other technology into its place instead of saying let's get off the oil as fast as we can, which
Right,
is what a lot of like Kimmer would argue.
right,
Like, let's just get off the oil. And of course, the problem is okay, what do we use to replace it?
right. We
Because
have to put the effort in to
yeah,
figure it out.
yeah. Well, again, not to get too deep into the weeds here, but the part of the problem is we don't have the alternative. Or we have the alternatives, but it's nuclear, which people don't want to
Mm,
do.
right,
It's taking a lot of land out of production to put solar and wind in,
right. Because
which people don't.
equally as bad as some of the other things we're doing. Like it's
Exactly.
not that's not environmentally friendly. I don't have the answer. I do feel like the people that don't understand the impact on our environment don't go outside. Like if you take time out of your life and you spend time outdoors, like and you see these places in for instance, I went to Olympic National Park this summer. They have photos of the park. I think it was like 30, 40 years ago, and now in the impact that just having people in the park has made on the growth of certain
Oh yeah.
trees, mosses, those sorts of things. Like how can you not acknowledge that? That's what I don't understand. Like
Willful ignorance.
do not go outside.
They- they're not thinking of the past. They look at, oh, that's the past, who cares? Or they'll say, well, look at 100 million years ago.
Oh yeah, because we're just gonna have another. It's all cycles,
Yeah,
right?
it's
That's
all
like
cycles. It's like,
it's all cycles.
and it's like, well, our data from 100 million years ago is pretty limited. A lot of gaps in that data. And if you can look at
It's woolly mammoth that they're bringing back.
the again, being in college, I remember seeing the graphs of the temperatures or the CO2 levels or whatever, and they'll have going back the 3 billion years, and it's these giant spikes, but you have to remember you're going across millions of years, and then they'll have that little break in the graph, and they'll show, okay, this is the last 100,000 years, and it's you see this lesser degree of change. Then you get to the 10,000 years that civilization has been around, and it's a flat line.
But it's a smaller amount of time.
Well, it's this tiny little bit of
Yeah.
time, but you say it's part of that 100,000 year cycle where it is bouncing. But again, 100,000 years we have limited data. 10,000 years we have really good data, though still limited compared to say the last 10
10,
years
yeah, or a
or
thousand.
1,000 years or 2,000 years really.
Yeah,
We have a lot of good data, and so it's basically what they're saying is that yeah, this stable temperature may not be normal, but it's the only normal civilization has ever known.
right.
And we don't understand, we know what happens at these extremes on this graph. We don't know really, if it's 10,000 years, 100,000 years, a million years, that it stayed stable at that level before it drop and fall. We don't know how fast these drops and falls happen because we get, a million years in an ice core that's literally quarter of an inch thick of worth of data. And again, has that ice been here for, had zero melting for
Right.
the 30
You're
million?
still guesses.
Yeah, you educated the guesses,
Yeah.
but so our science is good enough we can say, yeah, this makes sense, but you're compressing that time so much.
Right. That makes sense. I yeah, I feel like this book does a good job of making it really approachable for all kinds of people. Like you don't have like your belief system doesn't necessarily I think maybe it does, and maybe I'm biased, but I feel like it's pretty middle of the road in a lot of ways. Like she's willing to kind of go,
I think it is pushing more towards the naturalist side
sure,
of things, and that most people would have problems with what she's saying because it's going to disrupt their
it's
lives.
convenient.
It's not convenient. I do think she doesn't blame anybody. She doesn't say this is an emergency. We're all gonna. It's not like Al Gore's movie from 2000 where we're all gonna die in 10 years.
Fear
Yeah,
mongering.
not fear mongering. It's just saying, hey, this is a different way. If you're willing to try it, hear me out, and I think you're gonna have a much more enriched life, which
Right.
is something that a lot of people are struggling with right now too. Is enrichment in our life.
And I feel like her story, she's essentially telling stories, and we're just talking about history keeping. The indigenous people did a pretty good job of sharing the information that they had. She's got some pretty solid info. Yes, it was mostly word of mouth, right? So there's always problems with that, but they have a pretty good history.
Well, they also have thousands of years worth of working the land and passing that down. And the it's hard for modern people to understand how well information gets passed down generation to generation without written word in books. Because we've had books long enough that we don't understand how we do it. There are people, groups of people that are still illiterate that are able to pass down things in ancient Ireland, the whole thing of a bard, and they were passing down generations worth of myths, and family histories from bard to bard. And people are like, well, how did they not change the story? Well, it's because they had rhyming schemes. That's why we have poetry,
Mhm.
because you have a rhyming scheme that is, say, iambic pentameter. You have so many syllables you're allowed to use, and it has to rhyme in this scheme. You can't just throw random words in and out.
Oh, that totally makes
So it
sense.
makes it very easy to memorize.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of traditional ancient civilizations, that's how they talked.
Right. And who's to say you can't change writing?
Yeah.
Also,
Well, that, but I said it was actually a very effective way for
right.
humans to pass on knowledge.
Right. But I think that that's just as legit as, if not more than writing, because who's to say somebody didn't change what was written? Like, I don't know.
And I mean, I'm not going to argue with you on this, but I think total information wise, writing is going to pass on more
Sure.
information. Yeah, but you could easily have false information
Yeah.
put it into a poem. Right? Well, we do have fantastic, fantasy poetry out there. So, but I think we discount them for not having written it down when they didn't need to, and they've continued to pass it down. And yeah, they didn't have the scientific method, but as Robin has shown, when put to the scientific method tests, their observations 9 times out of 10 were the correct scientifically also.
Because they're doing science. They're just not calling it that.
They're not doing science, but they're doing something that is beyond science. So, because science is a very specific, you have a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis through the scientific method. That is the definition of science. And so they're not technically doing science, but what they're doing is
Observing.
observing and living one with the land and saying, hey, if I pick all the sweetgrass, there's no more sweetgrass next year, and we have no more offerings, and this tree dies
Right.
because it's no longer having the symbiotic relationship with its best friend down in
Right.
the soil. They may not have the words or the ability to
They didn't
prove
do,
this,
yeah, they didn't
but
have,
they have enough knowledge, traditional knowledge, to say, hey, we don't want to change this because the change is worse than having it here.
right.
So how do we keep everything in balance?
I don't know. I think she's a freaking genius. I'm a total girl
What
for
are
her.
your final thoughts on saying?
I, if you have any interest in just understanding indigenous ways of thinking or getting a better grasp on the natural world from an enjoyable point of, like from an enjoyable storytelling point of view, I think you should just read it because you could just read a couple of the essays. You don't have to read the whole book from front to back. You can do parts and pieces at a time. Listen to it if you don't want to read it. It's a really great experience. I loved it. I've listened to it one full time and pieces afterwards. I think it's a great book.
I've listened to a few of her interviews too. She does a phenomenal interview,
Her
and
voice is delightful.
yes, it's very delightful. So I got a few questions there. We've touched on most of these here, Haley. But
Okay.
is there a plant like the fragrant wingashka that is special to you, and why? So it's like is there a plant that's special to you?
Is there a plant that's special? I don't know. I freaking love plants. I grew all my flowers for my wedding this year. I have some house plants particularly that are special to me, but as far as like outdoor plants, I love ferns. I fucking love
Birds,
ferns.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of ferns.
The one I'm a big fan of is pink lady slippers.
They're not easy to find. You don't see them often.
So where I grew up, we had them in the edge of the yard on the hillside.
Oh,
So they every year they bloom like crazy.
that's
And then where
amazing.
I work right now for my day job, they're all over the place.
Really?
Yeah, we got like three spots that they come up and
They're
kind of
endangered, right?
they're very
Yeah.
endangered.
They're beautiful though.
You can't transplant them. That will kill them.
Oh, they have super sensitive
They're
roots then.
super sensitive
Okay.
and they're very particular on where they can grow.
Yeah, it's like a wet environment,
A
right?
wet environment, yeah.
Yeah. They grow with the
Yeah,
ferns.
and they stink to high heaven, so they're not a they're
Right.
not something that you go to
You
stink to fly.
Actually it's illegal, so don't do that.
Let's see what else we got here.
He came prepared with lots of notes. This is impressive.
Yeah, I do this for every book club. Alex makes fun of me, and Becky makes a lot of fun of me.
Hope that I can come up with something to say. That's my go-to.
What responsibility do we have in restoring a habitat? So, or you personally, like what is your what do you do, Haley, to to lessen the impacts of your time
Well,
on this earth?
I'm crazy to start. So, composting is really easy. Decreasing your waste is really not that hard. And also, well, most people don't have to go to the dump anymore. It's just small town shit. It's from the other episode I was on. We still have to go to the dump. So, nobody wants to go to the fucking dump. Honestly, I have started when I love gardening, trying to do so in a way that mimics like biomimicry, that mimics nature. I don't use synthetic fertilizers. I don't even I don't till. I'm a no-till girly. Pretty much anything that disrupts the natural way as much as possible. But it's easier said than done. I didn't even know like house cats are fucking bad.
Oh, they're terrible. They're the worst.
Well, actually just failing, but I
Oh, you have like five cats now?
but they do kill things.
Throw them in the dump,
I know.
or compost them. I mean,
Buy trash bags all year last year. I used pellet bags.
wow. So the at my work we have feed bags and the old feed bags were paper bag but with a plastic liner.
Mm.
One of the guys, old timers, used to use those for his trash bags.
Oh, hell yeah.
We were emptying out a dozen a day anyways, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll take two home with me, then I'll bring them back here to throw them away."
Yeah. And this one's trash.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I
We can't do it with the bags they use now. They're just straight plastic, and
uh,
it's terrible.
yeah,
We were so pissed when they switched over.
wasteful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like we're looking at it, like we can't reuse the other bags. They stank of feed,
Hmm.
but for something like trash, you could
Sure.
they were solid enough you could use them, and there was very limited plastic, and then the other was paper. So it was
Yeah, you didn't feel so. Yeah,
yeah
that's crazy. But I think the biggest thing we can do, honestly, is have these conversations, right? Like talking to each other, building community, and just doing what you can and not losing hope. That's when, as soon as people are like, oh, well, that's just not possible. So why would I do that? Well, you're the fucking problem.
yeah. Uh,
What do you do?
Well, as my job is pretty much dealing with this sort of stuff. Yeah, I went to college for natural resources management. I've basically grown up in the woods doing, all that stuff. I try not to. I mean, I obviously I go to the supermarket for a lot of food, but growing up we had a farm where we raised sheep and and hunting, and we try to even now I try to buy locally sourced beef and pork and whatnot if when I can find it for something I can afford. And so my job, I'm in nature all the time. We're actively trying to protect stuff. And even our ski job, it's we're working in the ski industry. You think, oh, they're just shills for growth, but it's working at the mountain. It's a lot of, okay, yeah, we're using this resource in a certain way, but at the same time, it's preserving the mountain as a whole because that mountain would be developed if it wasn't for the ski area.
Right. And helping other people to realize how important
Yeah.
nature is.
Yeah, and it's like, me and one of the other patrollers a while back we were having a discussion on how to protect our glades because the trees are all dying in several of our glades and the new trees are getting removed because we want to keep them open for
The
skiing.
ones into the bowl are like
Oh yeah.
fucked.
Yeah, and trying to find ways to, hey, how do we preserve this? And the answers are that we came up with weren't acceptable to management at that time. But it's like trying to find ecological ways to protect this mountain because we don't want the mountain to go away. It's I don't know about you, but I've always viewed the mountains as kind of a spiritual type thing, and I have a connection with this mountain, and I don't want it to go away. It's like, yeah, I want to ski on it, I want to hike it, I want to interact on that mountain with a mountain, but I do so in a way that's gonna be least harmful.
Right.
Uh, One of the mountains I hike a lot at home near where I live now, they recut a trail to make it easier to get up because it was a steep up, and it's section of trail they have power cables going up and telephone cables going up it, so they gravelled it, but it's very steep and very difficult. Not very difficult, but more difficult climb. And so they cut this trail that zigzags up right next to it. And I'll check it out. And I realized within weeks of that, the amount of erosion from just a few hundred people walking along this section, because it's all soft root mat in a wooded area. And all that topsoil went away within months.
And it's going to destroy those trees.
Yeah, and it's like, so for most of the time I will refuse to go in that other area, even though they're trying to direct people to go that way, and I'll just go up the steep way. It's like,
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly the impact
oh
happens.
yeah, so it's like, just stuff like that. And again, like, I spend a lot of times in the woods on my own and in the summertime and just hiking and trying to be one with nature.
If you spend time in nature, you want to do more.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I throw a lot of stuff away in the dump, but it's also, I'm recycling as much as I can. Again, my town makes it very easy to want to recycle because it's free.
Mm.
You
You're recycling?
Nope. We don't even have to sort it from cardboard and paper and everything else now either.
We sort our own recycling, but I get to see the cubes of all. And that makes me feel like something's happening with
But
that.
but I'm paying $3 a bag
Mm.
of trash, or I can take, yeah,
Really? You get to pay for trash?
yeah, buy the bag.
I mean,
I think it's like a dollar something
right.
for the small bags and almost $3 for the big bags.
I think that's kind of a great thing, honestly.
And yeah, and it's like, hey, I can recycle for free, and then that takes out a huge chunk of my garbage.
Yeah, that's insane.
So
That's cool. Food waste is also it's easy to if you live somewhere where you can compost, it's easy to put
yeah,
it
yeah.
outside and
If
compost
we could compost, we would compost.
because it just saves you on
Oh
trash.
yeah,
Your trash doesn't smell if you don't put
yeah.
fucking food in it.
Well, we also have one of those food things in the sink that we can
Garbage disposal.
garbage.
Yeah, yeah.
That helps a lot. After reading this book, what did you incorporate into your life for the honorable harvest?
Well, I try really hard to ask the plant before I take from it. So I'm like that.
It's
And
okay. We'll only judge you slightly.
I know. So it's ridiculous. I also try really hard to just be mindful of what I actually need. I think in the past I'd like go out and it's like, oh, it's really fun to just like pick all these apples, right? Or like go out picking with my friend. But like, am I going to use all these things? What am I gonna do with them? If I'm going to take all of them, how am I going to use all the parts that I can? I don't personally hunt anymore. I used to hunt as a kid. I don't feel like it's my job to end a life. I have no problem with hunting. My husband hunts. It's how we feed ourselves. But if I were to,
And it's a lot healthier meat if you want to eat meat.
yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with it. I just personally I can't do it anymore. I used to, I don't now. I've raised my own animals for meat, and we try to use every part that we can. Like we did turkeys. The dogs get all the giblets, and the feathers go into the compost, and the turkey feet are used to make broth for the dogs. And after you're done with cooking the turkey, you use the carcass, you make yourself some bone broth. Like just trying your best to be as mindful about using all the different pieces, not being wasteful with this gift essentially that this animal or plant or whatever is giving you. I love that she talks about that, like really being the gratitude.
Yeah, for me, it's like I said, it's bringing back these trees. At work, it's like, we can bring back these eastern cedars and try to get where I work. I think it's like 25 acres of wooded area
Oh wow.
that we could replant with all these native trees. So yeah, why don't we
Why
start? Yeah,
not?
why don't we start bringing these trees back? And it's just, and like I said, my idea for bringing these other trees back and saying, hey, how about we, what are ways we could do to bring back this old environment that made this land so amazing when the first white settlers came and when Native Americans were here.
Yeah, I think that's great. We can only do what we can do, and I want to see these trees. Really, I'm like now I want to see a full-grown elm tree.
Is it possible to better mesh Western science and indigenous worldviews expressed in stories and spirit? And how do we come to that enmeshment?
I definitely think it's possible she did it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely possible. Do you think, oh, just for put it crudely, crassly, a white person could give the same message?
I don't think uh,
Haley,
it
Haley, could you do this message as well as Rob Kimmerer?
message to give. I don't think it's like I think you could share her book, right? Like that's what I've tried to do is like share her book and try to share the ways
Well,
in setting examples.
so one of the things we didn't touch in this that she brings up several times, Kimmerer, is, yes, the native people had this land. It was their land. We took it from them. It's now our land
Mhm.
too, and it's our story too. It
Right.
is. So I think, she was saying it's like we should stop looking at it in a Judeo-Christian sense of our time here is short. We're just passing through. Don't worry about it. Throw your garbage wherever, but take it as
Be a
yours.
native. Be
Be
native
be
to your land.
native to your land.
Yeah.
And so I think, she would argue that, yeah, we can tell this story too.
Yeah.
It's saying, hey, me bringing up the Celtic peoples all the time. It's like this is how they did it before the Roman influences corrupted their thinking, and they were very similar lifestyles as Native Americans, and a lot of these traditions of being more one with the land, the spirituality of the different rivers and mountains and trees and being in balance. Was it, perfect? Of course not, because
Nothing is.
nothing is. But that is my people's story.
Sure. Yeah.
And now I'm here, and I can say, okay, let's transport my stories, combine them with Native American stories, and say, and with my Christian stories as a Western Judeo-Christian person history,
Hmm.
and saying, hey, how do we combine all this? Because one of the things in Christian doctrine is creating wealth for 7 generations out. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that, and it's all in the now. And it's like, hey, so I have 2 children, and what are their children's children going to have, and how can I best do that? And it's like by creating a better natural world for them.
Making sure that the world and all the plants and animals are still here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I do. You're right. Like we can tell a story. I don't think we can tell her story. It's not ours.
Yeah,
We,
this is her story, her
right.
experiences, and so
We can all tell our story.
exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think more people should sit around and talk to each other. It would change a lot of
Yeah, you
things.
do that by the fire a lot. I've noticed on your Instagram.
I do. We're sitting around a fire and chatting with some friends.
Do you have any story of nature and science that resonates with these stories and themes that you would want to share?
Oh my God, you put me on the spot. I can't think of one right now. Do you have one?
So what did I write? Since I had this all planned out months and months ago.
But I'm gonna think of something while you do yours.
Okay, what did I write? I wrote, lots of stories of hunting and hiking, being alone in the forest, sitting in, my tree stand or on a ground stand, or being in the White Mountains with the hope of no one being around for miles, just being totally alone. And that just sense of being alone in the woods and being one with nature and enjoying that ambiance of the trees and the wildlife around me. Seeing all the different animals. I don't know, you said you've hunted before. One of the coolest things is you're sitting there, you look over, and you realize there's an owl or a hawk within an arm's length or two of you, and you just start staring at each other. Yeah.
That
Them trying to probably trying to decide if I'm small enough to eat, or
would be a meal for a couple days.
yeah,
Um,
or me, I'm just like, this is so cool. There was one day I'm out in the hunting, and flying squirrels came through right at dusk, hundreds of them, just flying,
what?
zipping around the trees. And I didn't know this, but apparently flying squirrels in New England are the most common squirrels. You'd think gray squirrels or redders or chipmunks. No, flying squirrels, but they're nocturnal, so we don't typically see them. But every once in a while, when you're said
So
hunters at dusk, they'll come out a little bit early and just go nuts, and said hundreds of them flying around me.
that's insane. I don't have like a specific story, I guess, but I do think that I've spent a lot of time in nature. I've done a lot of travel across the country, and there is something there. I think there is science behind it. I'm pretty sure like forest bathing is an actual thing. But something about when you're like feeling sorry for yourself, you feel like shit, you've had a bad day. If you go out and you literally just sit in nature and you spend time in nature, you feel so much fucking better. Like there's no way around it. Like if you just go, I'm sure after you've been out hunting at night, you're like, oh, life is blissful, right? Like you're like,
Yeah,
life
yeah.
is
If I'm feeling down, I sit out in the woods and sit in that tree stand. I was like, I don't even care if I don't see a deer.
you don't have to do anything.
Yeah,
That's
it's like I'm just sitting there. I was like, you know what? I hope a deer doesn't come because I just want to sit here and just
I want to keep enjoying
meditate. Yeah.
because it's not even a conscious, at least for me, it's not like I'm consciously thinking about like, oh wow, the trees are so beautiful. Oh my God, let me look around and make sure I take in all the different things around me. You start noticing all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, those like this is incredible. I feel so much better. Like you just feel at peace. All the sounds are delightful. There's science behind it. Forest bathing is a thing. So
It is. It
yeah,
totally is.
yeah.
Thank you, Haley.
Yeah, this is great. I hope that it actually came out like we know what we're talking about. Because I'm like, it's been 12 years. Not really. It's been like a year since I read the book, but
Well, it's definitely been a good conversation.
yeah, how
Like I
long
said,
is
oh, hour 40 minutes.
content in there?
Yeah, we'll pare it down to about 20 minutes probably. It's all an episode.
I
I'm kidding.
I think this is great.
Oh,
I
it's
feel like we had a
definitely
lot of
really good.
great
Yeah.
conversation. I'm always down. I'm not a good reader of books, but I love a good chat. So,
Well, we need to get you back here with Alex to discuss
Akatar.
well, not the second one.
Oh, A Court of Mist and Fury.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of them.
yeah,
Oh man, that is a different book.
yeah. We got Alex and Becky to talk about Akatar.
Oh, okay.
So he's read the second book. We need to get his butt in gear to
Okay.
record.
I'm happy to be a guest anytime. I love
Okay,
you.
awesome. We love you as a guest.
A couple times in between, but I will show up eventually.
Yeah, we only had to miss one month for bonus episodes because people bailing on us.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna
So
work on it.
okay, yeah, cool.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you for listening. I will cut in some other episodes outro, so we don't have to do that now. Since
Love that. Thanks everyone. This was great. Thanks for being here. I wish you could also see my hand gestures the whole time I'm talking to you.
yeah,
So
we'll get up on YouTube
yeah,
videos someday, maybe.
I love that.
We need someone to actually edit the videos. Don't do that.
Send in some donations for some equipment, or if anybody wants to edit some videos.
So the big thing is the editing of videos. I think we can figure out videotaping. It's just the editing of it that
Videos.
would you do you know how to do? Okay.
I love it. I just do
Well, hey, careful what you volunteer for.
I'm just saying that'd be fun. I would.
Maybe someday. Maybe if we ever get big enough where we're well, that's one thing I do want to mention. We're about to beat last year's numbers for total downloads. We have about 50 to go. So if you guys tell your friends to download this episode, and even if you don't listen to it, just they don't want to listen to it, just tell them to download it. We can beat those numbers from last year and get over. My hope is to get over 1,000 downloads this year. So
Hell yeah, share this with your
yeah.
friends. We're fun. Hang out with us. It's good.
And if you want more Haley, leave it in the comments.
I'll be back. I'll
Yeah.
be back.
Well, this has been Bookworms. Thanks for listening. Bye. Until then, if you want to email us, you can. KendallBookworms@gmail.com or on Instagram @KendallBookworms. You can DM us there. We are on YouTube if you want to listen to us there. Comment, like, subscribe, Spotify, Apple. Leave comments. We do, as we said earlier, we do read them. Eventually, sometimes I'm a little slow to looking at that stuff, but if you make a comment, maybe we'll mention you on a future show. We have, what else do we got? I have a Medium where I write book reviews of books that we are not covering on this. As we've said in previous episodes, though, if any of these book reviews get over 100 reads, Alex will have to read that book and we will discuss it.
Yeah, so find the shortest books and read them.
Alex does have some books for sale. Alex?
Yeah, we got Paul Plimpton versus Ragnarok and The Destroyer.
We'll have a link for those on below for Amazon. See, what else do we got going for us? Anything, Alex? See, I've touched the Instagram.
I think we've got it.
Yeah. Like, subscribe. We're on all the major podcast apps, so there's no excuse not to listen to us. Alex, get us out of here.
Tune in next time for Hyperion. I'm Alex.
And I'm Joe.
And this has been Bookworms.
Out.